Welcome back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara Rai, working from home. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated to startups, innovation, technology, disruption, entrepreneurship. If it has anything to do with the new economy, we promise you it's going to be here on ET Now every weekday, 6 to 7 p.m. Tomorrow is Independence Day and the Prime Minister will be making his speech, as is the custom, at 7 a.m. from Red Fort. Of course, this time social distancing norms are being followed and it is expected the Prime Minister will focus on reviving the Indian economy as well as Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, when it comes to Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have seen all of the action primarily in the digital space so far, as well as electronics. What we've also seen in the last couple of days is the Prime Minister personally taking a lot of meetings when it comes to using technology in sectors like agriculture. He held a meeting recently for his pet project Kashi, wanting farmers to get loans in less than 10 minutes, riding on the tech wave. We just talked about the National Digital Health Mission, how we will see the Bharat Health Stack, India's UPI moment for healthcare. So I thought let's build on this theme through this entire show. And my next guest is the CEO and co-founder of Mobikwik, Bipin Preet Singh, who very proudly talks about being Indian, about being Atmanirbhar and being Indian in the payment ecosystem. Bipin, good evening. Thanks so much for being a part of our Independence Day special. It's something you talk very passionately about, and you've done it from day one. You've been on the receiving end, let's say, by others, whether it's a Ameen Nigam or PhonePe, but let's leave that aside. The Prime Minister's vision, it's very clear that financial inclusion has to become a reality, and he's now personally holding meetings for this, right? How can a startup like yours play a bigger role? I understand there was a meeting recently for agriculture, for example.
Right. So, firstly, Nayantara, through this channel, I want to wish a very happy Independence Day to all my fellow Indians in India and abroad. And, as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned and the payment ecosystem is concerned, I think, the point that I want to make is a little broader. It's not restricted to payments, for example, but it specifically relates to technology and the role of technology in our modern living and in our modern lifestyle. As you know, the world's biggest companies these days are all technology companies, what is known as FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, Netflix. Now, these companies have $1 trillion, in case of Apple, is going to touch $2 trillion valuation. Now, the thing that I have been asking for is that in the technology world, are we going to be such an open market where we allow all these companies to capture all the key market segments of the internet and technology, and thereby, India will lose all control as well as the future of security and the future of technology evolution in this country. Now, why I say that is because, it's all these companies, they're really, really very big. And Indian startup ecosystem is only 7, 8, 10 years old. So we haven't had the opportunity for companies like Mobikwik, to develop in a place where we could become potential companies to last for the next 100 years. Right, and create value for the Indian customers as well as for the Indian taxpayer. All these companies don't pay taxes in India, right? And all these companies may be employing some people, but they ultimately answer to their national governments, respective national governments, whether it is in US or whether it is in China. So this whole call of Atmanirbhar Bharat by the Prime Minister is actually very important to consider in all areas, including agriculture, including pharmaceuticals, including banking, but very specifically in payments and e-commerce as well, because payments and e-commerce is the engine. Both payments as well as e-commerce are the engines where you create the data which forms the basis for financial services, forms the basis for credit, forms the basis for understanding better the customers. Are we saying that we are going to lose all this market just to foreign entities, which is what is happening today? So, my point is that, we don't have a structure of thinking long term today in terms of technology and the role the technology startups are going to play in India becoming a superpower over the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years.
Yeah, I take your point that, while we are seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of that is also happening thanks to, friends from overseas. In India, of course, you have seen fantastic innovation. Look at Baiju. Baiju is the world's most valuable startup, began from Bengaluru. Look at the lockdown, what Mukesh Ambani did as far as the Geo platform goes. So while the initial startup innovation might have been based on Me Too models, it has started, coming of age, and maybe that's why the government has also recognized the importance and is now willing to play the role of a mentor. But, Bipin, the prize is very large, and we've just, I think, scratched the surface. I'm going to just read out numbers that your team has shared with me. That if I look at the customer demographic, majority of the users, that is 51% plus, are between 20 and 30 years old. That 36% are between 30 to 40 years. So while I understand the demographic dividend, there is still so much penetration that is left.
Absolutely. I think, that's the point that I'm making, that India has a fantastic market opportunity for creating probably the world's largest English-speaking digital ecosystem. Remember, the biggest ecosystem in the digital technology world today is China, but it's not English-speaking. So India has the opportunity to create the biggest such ecosystem over the next 20, 30 years, and age is on our side. Absolutely. We will be the youngest population for several decades, which means that more active usage, more active consumption. But whether that market will be captured by Indian players or will it be given on a platter in every key segment to foreign entities is a big question that we are not thinking of actively. Now, many people also confuse this with saying that India needs foreign investment, etc., which I absolutely agree with. India needs foreign investment, but we need foreign capital, but not necessarily we need foreign entities to be dominant in every sector. Now, you take example of China. Now, China 20 years ago very cleverly realized that if they open up the market completely to the Googles of the world or Facebooks or Apple and Amazons of the world, then they are not going to have their own ecosystem. But look what has happened 20 years later. They have their Alibaba, they have their Tencent, and that has spawned off their ByteDance, of which there is a lot of conversation happening. Their JD, there's Pingo, all these companies have been created and have created massive value for the customers in China as well as the investors. And most of the investors who invested in these companies are actually US investors, right? The Sequoias, the Matrix, and everybody who came from, because they saw the market opportunity. What we are doing in India is actually very different. We are killing a lot of startups and market opportunities and nipping them in the bud, because there is always this fear in everybody's mind. What if Google comes into this? What if Amazon comes into this? What if Facebook comes into this? Now, look, Indian startups are very innovative, very smart, but like there is when you're competing with $1 trillion of market cap and unlimited amount of investment that these companies can put in, then you need a certain kind of a level playing field. And there is, you saw what has happened with the banning of some of these Chinese apps. The moment that happened, suddenly everybody realized, oh my God, there are so many short video apps in India, and there are, I think, probably 5 of them which have already reached 50 million downloads, and then investments have started happening. The same investors who were saying the opportunity is not there are suddenly investing in all these startups which started after TikTok was banned. So the point is very, very clear. If we want to have our own ecosystem, not an imported tech ecosystem, which is what we have largely today, I mean, there are innovations like UPI, and in some innovations in financial services. But even in UPI, you see which are the apps, which are leading today. They are all foreign known. I mean, why are we sitting blind and ignoring the reality that in key areas like search, in key areas like messaging, in key areas like e-commerce, and now even in payments, it's just segment after segment. There is no Indian startup. Yes, Byju's is a good one, is an exception, but Byju's is a very different model. Byju's is a very localized business model of which there are no peers. But if all of our ecosystems, key large verticals are captured by large corporations, then we don't have hopes of creating corporations which are $500 billion. Look, I understand about Geo as well, and Geo is capturing an opportunity. We'll have to see how much Geo can innovate, what they can create, and I'm pretty hopeful they will be able to build. But this is so large that this is not about one single company. There must be hundreds of Indian startups, which are valued billions of dollars, and not just delivering food or selling education related stuff. They should be in the core areas of technology which move the engines of our ecosystem, because that's where the value is going to get created over the next 20, 25, 50 years.
Right. Absolutely, and if you're going to have 100 unicorns in the next 2 to 3 years, that's nearly $80 billion that we're talking about, a wealth creation that is indeed going to take place, and India needs to have its own FANG moment. With that, Bipin, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We had you here on the Independence Day special because I knew you have very strong views on this subject. Looking forward to more interviews with you in the near future. For now, we have to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with an excerpt of a very exciting ET Now webinar. He's someone who's built $1 billion+ company without any funding. Stay tuned.